All right, so welcome back. Last time we got you all caught up on Doctor Who, but now we're diving even deeper into the heart of it all, really, the Doctor themselves.
Ah, yes.
And how one character could be played by so many different people,
right,
thanks to this wild thing called regeneration.
It's a concept that, when you stop and think about it, is just wild. I mean, how can over 15 actors all play the same character?
Exactly. And still be like the same person.
You know, Ifdins, yes.
So how does that even work?
Well,
what makes each Doctor unique?
Yeah, we've got a ton of sources here covering everything from the classic black and white episodes all the way to the new stuff. It's going to be a whirlwind tour through Doctor Who history, that's for sure. So, strap yourselves in.
Okay, so first things first. Regeneration. Explain it to me like I'm, I don't know, like a 5-year-old who's just discovered Doctor Who.
Okay, so imagine it's like a Time Lord's special way of cheating death.
Okay.
Instead of just dying, their whole body changes completely. It's like a total renewal. And that can lead to a whole new look.
I see.
And often a change in personality, too.
So it's basically like a cosmic reset button for Time Lords.
Exactly.
Pretty handy when you're zipping through time and space, facing danger at every turn.
Right. It was essential, really, not just some clever writing. You know, it actually saved the show.
Really?
Oh, yeah. When the first Doctor, William Hartnell, had to leave.
Oh, right.
Because of his health, Regeneration allowed Dr. Fu to keep going.
So if they hadn't come up with that, there'd be no Doctor Who as we know it.
Probably not.
Wow. And the way Regeneration looks on screen, that's changed a lot too, right?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, think about it. Those
Yeah.
simple fades they used to do back in the day.
Right.
Compared to those, like, explosive CGI-filled scenes we see now. It's a whole visual thing.
It's almost become like its own special effect. Okay, let's get down to business. Let's meet these doctors.
Right.
First up, the OG, William Hartnell.
Oh, yes.
The first Doctor from 1963 to 1966.
Yeah.
I've heard he was quite a character.
He was. A bit before your time, I imagine.
Yeah, a little bit.
But the first Doctor was this, very stern, almost grandfatherly figure. More like a strict professor than an adventurous hero, really.
Not exactly the cuddly type, then?
No, not quite.
But, I mean, he was still the Doctor.
Oh, of course. He had this incredible intelligence, resourcefulness, and, yes, even compassion.
Hidden depths, huh?
Underneath it all, he had this strong moral compass, a real desire to help people, even if he didn't always show it in the most obvious way.
Okay, give me one specific detail about the first Doctor.
One detail.
Yeah, to help someone really picture him, you know?
Ah, well, his Edwardian clothes.
Oh, right.
And that walking stick he always had, that added to his distinguished, almost old-fashioned appearance.
I can picture him stepping out of the TARDIS now.
It really set the tone for the Doctor as this mysterious alien figure.
Okay, time to move on. So many Doctors, so little time.
So many.
Next up, Patrick Troughton.
Yes.
The second Doctor, 1966 to 1969. He's the one with the cosmic hobo look, right?
Ah, yes. The second Doctor, he was a complete change from the first. Much more whimsical, playful, almost clownish at times, even.
Oh, wow.
And yes, his clothes were much more casual. It was kind of like
like a space traveler, but also...
Yeah, like he was on a permanent camping trip that earned him that cosmic hobo nickname.
So a mischievous prankster, but still a hero at heart.
Absolutely. He might have played the recorder, but he was just as brave and compassionate as the first Doctor. He just showed it differently.
Okay, on to the third Doctor, John Pertwee, 1970 to 1974.
Yeah.
This is where things start to get a little fuzzy for me.
Ah, the third Doctor. Another big shift.
In what way?
Imagine a suave action hero Doctor with a black belt in Venusian karate.
Wow.
And driving a vintage roadster.
Oh, come on.
This was the Doctor exiled to Earth by the Time Lords, forced to work with UNIT. A military organization dealing with alien threats.
So less cosmic hobo and more like James Bond in space.
You got it. Dapper suits, gadgets, and of course that velvet smoking jacket. But it was still the same Doctor underneath it all.
Right, fighting for justice, protecting the innocent.
Exactly, just with a lot more, style.
A lot more style. Okay, let's talk about the fourth Doctor.
All right.
Tom Baker, 1974 to 1981. For many, the Doctor.
Ah, yes. Tom Baker. He brought this unique blend of eccentricity, warmth, and, this kind of alien detachment.
And that scarf, how long was that thing anyway?
Legendary.
It was.
12 feet long. Can you believe that?
No. I mean, seriously, it was practically its own character.
It really was.
Okay, but aside from the scarf, what else made his Doctor so, I don't know, so special?
Well, he was this amazing mix of, Goofy and serious. He could be incredibly funny one minute and then really deep the next. And he had this way of making you feel like you were right there with him on these incredible adventures. His adventures, they were always so full of wonder and excitement.
I could see why he's so popular. All right, next up we have Peter Davison, the Fifth Doctor, 1982 to 1984. He seems a lot, I don't know, gentler than his predecessors.
He was. The Fifth Doctor was a pretty big shift in tone, yeah.
How so?
Well, he was younger, more vulnerable, almost like a sensitive friend who just happened to be a Time Lord, and he was a big cricket fan.
Cricket. That's an interesting choice for the Doctor.
Right, but it worked. He was still brilliant, still a defender of, well, everything, really. But he brought this compassion and empathy that really resonated with people, especially younger viewers. It reminded you that the Doctor, even with all the, the alien stuff, could be someone you'd actually want to hang out with.
Okay, next we've got a Doctor who I hear caused quite a stir back in the day.
Oh, yeah.
Colin Baker. The Sixth Doctor from 1984 to 1986.
Ah, the Sixth Doctor. Yes, he was definitely controversial, much more abrasive, confrontational than the others. His costume was just this, explosion of colors, which, kind of reflected his bold, maybe even arrogant personality.
So, not exactly a fan favorite.
Some viewers found him too harsh, too undoctor-like,
Interesting. So maybe less about winning people over and more about, challenging expectations.
I think so, yeah. You have to remember the context, too.
The 80s.
It was the 80s. Doctor Who was under a lot of scrutiny. From some critics, maybe the writers were trying to push back a bit, make a statement.
Yeah, hey, we're not just a kids' show anymore.
Right. He may not have been the most well-loved Doctor, but he definitely made an impact.
That's for sure. Okay, moving on to the Seventh Doctor, Sylvester McCoy.
Okay.
1987 to 1989, and then again briefly in 1996.
Mm.
He always struck me as a very strategic Doctor, a real thinker.
Oh, absolutely. The Seventh Doctor was a master manipulator, famous for his clever plans and his love of chess.
Hold on, the Doctor as a chess master. That sounds a bit pretentious, doesn't it?
Well, that's the debate, isn't it? Some people loved his era, all those intricate plots and double crosses and all that.
Yeah.
But some found it a bit slow, not enough action, compared to other Doctors. But you can't deny his impact on the show. He paved the way for a more complex kind of storytelling.
So a bit of a transitional Doctor then, bridging the gap between the classic series and, everything that came after.
Exactly. And his era was this blend of dark humor, political commentary, and of course, classic Doctor Who adventure. It's worth revisiting, for sure.
Okay, now for a Doctor who sadly didn't get much screen time, Paul McGann as the Eighth Doctor.
Right.
He was only in the 1996 TV movie and then briefly in 2013, right?
Yeah, it's kind of a sad story, actually. The TV movie was supposed to be this big relaunch of Doctor Who.
Oh, I remember that.
But it didn't really work out at the time.
A shame.
But despite that, despite not being on screen much, the Eighth Doctor is really beloved. Through audio dramas and novels and all sorts of expanded media, fans describe him as this romantic, kind of poetic Doctor, full of energy, passionate about exploring the universe.
It's always a bummer when a Doctor doesn't get their full run, But it sounds like there's a whole world of Eighth Doctor stories out there for fans to discover.
Oh, there is. And it's amazing how much of an impact Paul McGann made. Even with such limited screen time, he really inspired a lot of those stories,
Yeah.
His Doctor was the reminder that even with all the darkness and hardship out there, hope and wonder can still win.
Okay, and we're back for part 2 of our Doctor Who deep dive. Last time, we journeyed through the first 8 Doctors.
8.
And that was just the beginning.
The warm-up.
We've got even more Time Lord adventures to unpack.
It's incredible, isn't it?
It is.
How each Doctor builds on the ones who came before, but also, brings something totally new.
It's how the show stays fresh, I think, even after, 6 decades?
Something like that, yeah.
So, where did we leave off? Oh, right. The 8th Doctor. And things are going to get a little timey-wimey from here, because we need to talk about a Doctor shrouded in mystery.
Ooh.
The War Doctor. Played by John Hurt. He was only in a couple of episodes back in 2013.
Yeah, just a few brief appearances.
So what's his deal?
Well, the War Doctor was this hidden incarnation, a Doctor who fought in the Time War.
Right, the Time War.
Which was this huge, devastating conflict, almost wiped out the Time Lords completely. He's a much darker Doctor, really. Hardened by battle, haunted by the choices he had to make.
It's interesting, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's almost like Doctor Who is acknowledging that even heroes, they have a dark side.
It is. It's a great example of how the show has matured over time,
Right.
exploring these more complex ideas, challenging its own mythology. I mean, the War Doctor's existence, it makes you think about the consequences of the Doctor's actions, the burden of being a warrior, even when you're fighting for peace.
Definitely adds a whole other layer to the character. Okay, so after that little detour to the Time War, we get to the Ninth Doctor, Christopher Eccleston, relaunching the series in 2005.
Yeah, big shoes to fill, a whole new audience to win over.
He did a fantastic job, though.
He did. The Ninth Doctor, he was the one who brought Doctor Who back after, well, quite a while off the air. And he did it with this raw intensity
Yes.
and emotional depth.
He was still dealing with so much for the Time War.
Yeah, exactly. He was carrying those scars, grappled with guilt and loss. But even with all that, he still had this desperate hope, this belief in goodness.
I think that's why he resonated with so many people. He reflected where the world was at. Like we'd been through some tough times, but there was still this like glimmer of optimism.
Absolutely. He reminded us why we loved Doctor Who in the first place, the adventure, the humor, the heart, and he set the stage for everything that came after.
And then David Tennant.
Ah, yes.
The 10th Doctor, 2005 to 2010, and he even came back for a special appearance in 2023.
He did.
I mean, where do we even begin with David Tennant?
I know, right?
He brought this, like, explosion of charisma.
Energy.
Charm.
It's hard to describe, really.
Okay, I'll admit it. I had a total crush on him. Come on, who didn't?
He definitely had that effect on people.
But it was more than just the charm, right?
Oh, definitely. Tennant's Doctor, he brought this emotional depth to the show that, well, it was on another level. He made the Doctor feel human, relatable, but without losing any of that alien wonder,
He set a high bar for everyone who came after.
He did.
All right, next up we have Matt Smith as the 11th Doctor,
Yeah.
2010 to 2013. He was the youngest actor to play the Doctor at the time, wasn't he?
He was only 26 when he was cast. It was a bold move, for sure, but it paid off. He brought this youthful energy and a really quirky charm. People used to say he was like an old soul in a young body.
I can see that.
This childlike wonder about the universe, but also this deep understanding of loss and sacrifice.
And his look.
Oh, yeah.
The fez and bow tie. So iconic.
Absolutely. And the tweed jackets and that catchphrase, Geronimo.
He was the Doctor who made me fall in love with the show.
Oh.
All right, next we have Peter Capaldi, the 12th Doctor, from 2013 to 2017. And he brought like a completely different energy.
He did. Peter Capaldi, he brought this gravitas and intensity.
Right, like a real presence.
It was refreshing, really. His Doctor was older, more world-weary, often quite grumpy, actually.
I like the grumpy Doctor.
But like all the Doctors, underneath it all, there was this deep well of compassion.
And he played guitar?
Yes, he was in a Pumapmak band back in the day.
Really? I did not know that.
Oh, yeah. And it wasn't just a gimmick,
Right.
That rebellious energy, it's part of who the Doctor is, really.
It's true. He was a good reminder that you don't have to be like all sunshine and rainbows to be a hero. Sometimes it's about standing up for what's right, even when it's hard. Okay, now for a truly groundbreaking Doctor. Jodie Whittaker.
Yes.
The 13th Doctor, 2017 to 2022. The first woman to play the role.
A landmark moment for the show.
Absolutely. How did her portrayal, change how people saw the Doctor?
Well, I think more than anything, it showed that anyone, regardless of gender, could be the Doctor. And Jodie Whittaker, she brought this warmth, this optimism, and a real inclusivity to the role that resonated with so many people. Her Doctor was all about kindness, compassion, the power of collaboration.
It was a breath of fresh air.
It was.
And her companions were amazing, too. Such a diverse group. It really emphasized that anyone can be a hero.
Exactly. Her era was about celebrating different perspectives and showing how important it is to work together, to solve problems.
Now things get timey-wimey again. Back to David Tennant. He returned as the 14th Doctor in 2023 for a few specials.
Yes, he did.
But then regenerated into Ncuti Gatwa, who's now the 15th Doctor. So what's going on there?
It's a bit of a mystery, to be honest. We're all waiting to see how it unfolds. David Tennant's return, that was a huge surprise for everyone.
It was.
Those specials, they were full of nostalgia.
Oh, yeah?
But they also introduced some very interesting plot points that are going to continue into Ncuti Gatwa's era.
I love how Doctor Who always keeps us guessing.
Keep us on our toes.
So we've met all 15 Doctors, each one so different, so memorable. But what is it that makes them all the Doctor? What's that one thing that stays the same through all those changes?
That's the big question, isn't it? I think it's their belief in humanity, their hope, Their absolute refusal to give up, even when things are at their worst, and their fight for justice and fairness, no matter how they look, what personality they have, those core values, they always shine through.
It's inspiring, really, to see that enduring spirit. So we've covered a lot of ground here, but we've only just scratched the surface, really.
We have.
Where should our listener even start if they're new to all this?
That's a great question. For someone starting out with the modern series, I always recommend the Ninth Doctor.
Good choice.
It's a really good entry point, and Christopher Eccleston's performance is fantastic. Or, if you want to see peak Doctor Who popularity, the 10th Doctor's era is a must-watch. David Tennant, he brought in so many new fans.
He did. I'd also add the 11th Doctor to that list. Matt Smith's era is just pure fun. So charming, so many great adventures. Okay, what about specific episodes? If you had to pick just a couple of must-watch episodes, what would they be?
Ooh, that's a tough one. But let's see. For the 9th Doctor, I'd say The Empty Child and The Doctor Dances.
Ooh, yeah.
It's a two-parter. It shows his darker side, but also his incredible compassion. It's a bit creepy, but ultimately really hopeful.
Right.
For the 10th Doctor, Blink. Definitely Blink.
The classic.
It's a masterpiece of suspense and horror. It introduces the weeping angels.
I'm never looking at a statue the same way again.
Exactly. And for the 11th Doctor, I think the 11th Hour. It's a perfect introduction to him and his unique personality and the whole feel of his era.
All amazing episodes. They really showcase what makes Doctor Who so great. The blend of sci-fi, adventure, humor, and heart. And speaking of heart, we can't forget about Regeneration.
Oh, yes.
It's such an emotional roller coaster, a beginning and an ending.
All at once.
Full of hope, but also sadness.
It's a powerful reminder that even for a Time Lord, nothing lasts forever.
True.
But it also promises renewal, new adventures, and that's what keeps the story going.
All right, so we're back for the final part of our Doctor Who deep dive. We've met all 15 Doctors.
15.
Explored their personalities, their quirks, all that good stuff. But now it's time to tackle the big one, Regeneration. What's the deal with it?
It's fascinating, isn't it?
It is.
But also a little bit sad.
Yeah, there's always that bittersweet feeling.
We've seen it happen so many times on screen.
Right.
But we still don't really know, what's going on in the Doctor's head during those moments.
It's like a cosmic reset button, sure.
Mm-hmm.
But for a Time Lord, it's more than just, a physical change.
It's a total rebirth. Their whole personality can shift, their outlook on everything, and it brings up all these emotions, not just for the Doctor, but for their companions, too.
Oh, yeah. And for us watching at home.
Exactly. You grieve for the Doctor you've come to know, and you have to, embrace the unknown.
It's those transitions, those raw emotional moments that have become some of the most iconic Doctor Who scenes, I think.
Oh, for sure. They stay with you.
Like forever.
I mean, think about the 10th Doctor's regeneration.
Oh, man.
Into the 11th, when he says, I don't want to go.
Heartbreaking.
So beautifully written, so well acted. It just gets you right in the feels.
It really does. It shows his fear, his attachment to his companions, but also his acceptance of what has to be.
And then there's the 11th Doctor regenerating into the 12th. So much quiet dignity,
Yeah.
Like he's passing the torch. And those final words, Raggedy Man, goodbye.
Oh, stop.
Simple, but so powerful.
Okay, the 12th Doctor, he went out with a bang.
He did. That regeneration speech, it was incredible.
It was.
His message of hope and kindness, urging his successor to be kind.
So fitting for his Doctor,
It was. He'd struggled with his own darkness, but ultimately he became the symbol of compassion.
I think those regeneration scenes, they're not just about the spectacle.
Right.
They make you think about change, loss, renewal, all those big ideas.
They remind us that even though the Doctor's face changes, their spirit remains the same. Their mission, who they are at their core.
So after this deep dive into all things Doctor Who, what's your biggest takeaway? What makes Regeneration so compelling, even after all this time?
For me, it's how it keeps the show fresh.
Mm-hmm.
How it allows for reinvention, but without losing sight of those core values. It's like a new chapter, but the heart of Doctor Who, that adventurous spirit, that hope, that kindness, it never goes away.
It's like getting a brand new show every few years, but with the same, time-traveling, universe-saving soul.
Exactly, and it's been going for over 60 years. That's incredible, really.
It is.
It shows you the power of imagination, of a good story.
We've seen so many different Doctors, so many different takes on the character, but they all share that spark, that heroism, that thirst for adventure.
And that's what keeps us coming back for more. We never know what's going to happen next, but we know that the Doctor will always be there, fighting for what's right, reminding us that there's always hope, no matter how dark things get.
This has been amazing, exploring all the different faces of the Doctor with you.
It has.
But seeing all these regenerations, all these personalities, it makes you wonder, what is that experience actually like for the Doctor? What happens in those moments between lives?
That's the ultimate mystery. Maybe we'll never know for sure, but that's part of the magic, I think.
It is. It leaves us with questions, things to think about.
And that sense of wonder.
Well said. And that's a wrap on our Doctor Who Deep Dive. Thanks for joining us on this wild ride through time and space. Until next time, keep exploring, keep asking questions, and never stop believing in the power of a good story.